Adam. Thanks for
Hi.
having me here today.
Thank you so much, Alessandra, for joining, for agreeing to do this. It's a great pleasure to be talking to you this morning. So, just to introduce myself, my name is Adam. I'm a first year PhD student in ML Labs, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Alessandra this morning on behalf of ML Labs. So, Alessandra, would you like to introduce yourself, your name, your company, your role, and anything else you'd like to tell us about what you do?
Absolutely. Thank you, Adam. I'm delighted to be with ML Labs today. I've seen what you guys are doing, and it's absolutely interesting and amazing, the progress in in so few years. So a little bit about myself. I'm Alessandra Sala. I'm currently the Director of AI Engineering and Data Science at Shutterstock. My background is in research, so let me tell you how I got there. I started my PhD back in Italy. Before I completed my PhD, I was traveling abroad. So I went first to ETH, Switzerland, in Zurich, and then I moved to US. So I completed my PhD abroad, and right after I defended my thesis back in Italy, I moved back to California, where I spent a total of 5 years doing research at the UCSB in the computer science department. My research was always looking at practical problems. So how can we solve uh, problems that are relevant to industry, that someone will take it and make something so that people could use it. So some of my projects were funded from Cisco System. And in 2012, I got this opportunity to start working for Bell Labs. Bell Labs is one of the biggest research center within the telecommunication industry. And I moved to Dublin because they were starting what at the time was called big data. It was the predecessor of AI and machine learning, really trying to understanding data at scale. So I moved to Bell Labs. I started as a senior researcher. The project that we were working on at the time got some visibility, started to be very interesting for the whole company. So they gave me a team, and then the team developed into an entire division. I was leading the analytics research in Nokia Bell Labs. I had two teams in Paris, one in Budapest, one in Cambridge, UK, and obviously here in Dublin, where I spent 8 years and a half before then moving to Shutterstock only a few months ago. And I love Shutterstock today because the volume, the variety, and the diversity of data that I have in terms of images, video, music, and the multimodal combination that you can investigate on those large-scale data sets. They bring some very interesting new use cases and technical challenges to solve.
Is really impressive, I have to say. If only we could hope to achieve the same as you, Alessandra, in so few years. I think that's a really great story. And so our second question on the list, I think you've already kind of touched on it, was about your primary educational background. So did you pursue a degree, and then did you go into a master's? What was your sort of your path leading up to getting into ML and data science?
So in Italy, the bachelor and the master, when I was in the university, were a combined program of 5 years. So I did computer science for 5 years. And after that, there was a national competition to be part of the PhD program, where you had to take this exam. If you were selected, you were assigned to a professor within different university, which had open PhD position, and you could start your PhD program. And the PhD program was for me fundamentally on distributed system. My background is a little bit more theoretical, so looking at the properties of those systems and how you can demonstrate through proofs and theorems the validity of their behavior at scale and in different conditions.
Mm.
So always looking at retrieval in distributed setting. At the time, an application for those kind of algorithm was overlay networks. So distributed network where you were storing files in different location, and then you wanted to retrieve this information very fast and cheap.
Mm.
And then moved more into the security aspect. When I moved to US, I started working on social network data to understand the communication pattern of user and how we can use each other to shield each other from understanding, connecting the source and the destination of a communication, so to make it anonymous.
Mm.
So how this communication can become anonymous if we start to leverage our social circles. So I got in touch with this huge volume of data. And also I had a background in graph theory. So I started to love to investigate those graph scales, the topological properties, the connectivity properties, the semantic properties of those graphs, and how to leverage those structures to create privacy guaranteed protocol, or even to synthetically generate data set at scale. One of my published work is on epsilon differential privacy. So a generator that takes a graph, extracts some properties, and then generate a new graph with epsilon differential private within epsilon differential privacy framework, which respect the topological property and the semantic property of the original graph, but is anonymized through this transformation.
Amazing. Well, I have to say I love the fact that I think you touched on there that though your research was grounded in very theoretical work, I think it immediately lends itself to application, which is what you spoke about wanting to do, which I think is really amazing. I think next on our list we have a nice juicy question. Uh, so, do you think we can achieve general artificial intelligence, and if so, when? And if not, why?
This is a very controversial question. I love
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it beliefs do not match reality, or we have proved through history that all our prediction have been quite wrong, mainly in AI for many years, right? So I do believe that artificial intelligence, and in particular machine learning, is advancing so fast. And we need to be careful of the implication of this technology that is advancing faster than we expect in this moment. So it seems that we are in an exponential growth. Is it general intelligence? No, not yet. And for many years, it won't be. Um, However, the most important thing is, I believe, to shift the question. It's not very important when we will reach general artificial intelligence, but more the process that we put around AI to regulate and to test and to validate. Is this approach, is this algorithm, is this methodology designed for this purpose, how we can create those ethical guidance within the design, within the implementation, within the monitoring of those systems, so that we allow the technology to evolve without being scared, because we already have the control. For example, I like the aviation industry. The aviation industry, if you think about it, is one of the most dangerous technology that we have invented. We, we fly in distances that we could not even conceive only few decades ago, right?
Mm.
And yet it seems to be the most secure industry. Why? Because they have understood the importance of regulation, structured processes and procedure, such that every time any airlines, any providers of engine or aircraft make a mistake from an engineering perspective, from a process perspective, this is shared. There is a global repository, and everyone updates their process, procedure, and regulation to account for that possible mistake so that no one repeats it again. So they collectively work and create this global intelligence of process and structure to make this industry the most secure industry that you can imagine. And I think if we start to go in that direction as well, it's not about how when we reach general intelligence, but we will do in a way that is safe for us, for humanity, and it really augment our capabilities. We have augmented our ability to travel. We couldn't travel those distance before, so we haven't been scared about that technology, and it's definitely hyperhuman, right? Because human alone could never do that.
Yeah, we can't fly.
Artificial intelligence has the power to help us to become hyperhuman from a cognitive perceptual perspective. We just need to make sure it's safe for human to be augmented in that way.
That is such an interesting perspective on it, like less about when and more about how we would achieve artificial general artificial intelligence. So I wanted to ask next, how has AI and ML as a field changed since you've started working on it?
So this is a question that it changes depending on which exact field you are in. So machine learning and AI, as many people know, is a combination of many different fields and technology. So there is computer vision, there is natural language processing, there is data science in general, and all the predictive model there. So each of those fields have had a different evolution. We have seen in the last 7-10 years how computer vision has dramatically changed. Before it was all handcrafted feature. It was really teaching algorithm to recognize what humans do. Today with deep learning, the things have changed dramatically. So the approach, the field has evolved dramatically. Same things with voice, same things with natural language processing. At different point in time, they had this evolution. But today, I believe we are still on a growth moment where those models are still evolving a lot. There is a huge opportunity to make those models more efficient, more agile, better applicable into different domain using the same mental structure and design principle that we use in computer vision or in natural language processing or in language translation.
That's such a good point. I wanted to ask as well, this is a bit cheeky of me of adding a second question to this. I understand you're involved with women in AI. Is that right?
And you see my logo over there.
Yeah. And,
So
and I think it's an amazing initiative, and I wondered if you could, in respect to that question of how has the field changed since you've come into it, I'd love if you could touch upon that as well, because I think it's a really great thing that you're doing.
So Women in AI is a non-profit organization. Everything that we are doing, it's out of our free time and really meant to help someone. It's not the name Women in AI, it calls for women, but in reality, and mainly in Ireland, I started this community 1 year ago in September 2019. And the mission since the beginning was diversity. Can we bring diverse perspective into AI? Why? Because if you look at the diversity in the tech world, it's very limited. So there are 22% of female represented in tech and in places where decisions are taken. 3% from 3% of Latino and Black in 2019-20, coming from 5 years ago, 1%. So a 2% increase. If we look at technology instead, AI has become 270 times more predominant in industry and in product. So you think, oh my God, we are using this technology is everywhere. Who is designing this technology is representing me, is representing my neighbor, is going to represent my kids' world. So the idea was, can we bring diverse perspectives? So when we design those systems, we take into account a need that can come from a different community or from a different culture that is different from what I can think of. And it's not that I'm evil, that I want to discriminate against this. It's just that it's not in my brain and I need to have that person talking that language. So women in AI, it's really doing that and doing that in a very specific way. I don't want to bring diversity or women into AI just because we need it. I want to bring people that have the technical skill. So what does that mean? If I'm part of this community, I need to be technically savvy in AI. I just know I like this topic like a TV show and I want to be part. No, I don't need the audience like watching a TV show. I need people that are willing to engage in reskilling themselves, in bringing their background, their mentality, their perspective, and applying it with true technical skills into the field. So we have launched practice groups. Practice groups are 5 people of any gender, any culture coming together to solve an AI small project. So we have some data, we have an ML project, very small, 2 months of work. We'll do it together as a group. So we learn from each other. No one is supposed to know when they come, but people needs to be able to go from finding the data, cleaning the data, applying the classification, the prediction, whatever the problem is, getting some result and writing a report so that you can learn and you can showcase your technical skill. On the other side, 2 years ago, I was with the Irish government designing the first AI national master. After 3 years, we had a total of 13 women. And only the first year, there were 150 applicants. And I was like, how could I be part of the design of something that has done exactly the opposite of what I was trying to achieve? So I tried to root cause the problem. And I think there were two main problems. Many people do not have the basic background to engage in a master in AI. So there is a knowledge gap. So if I don't have the basic requirement, how can I participate to a master? And many female or minority or people from the refugee community, they are coming into a country. They don't even speak the language. They possibly had a very different education. How they can have the right background to enroll in a master if they are just trying to survive or to engage and to be part of a new community? So bridging the gap with the skill gap. On the other side, a time, do those people that we want to attract have 2 years to invest? A woman within 30 and 40 maybe is pushing with her career, has a couple of kids. Now we are asking to commit for 2 years and to study every single night. Those young professional and mothers possibly have few minutes every day, right? So committing a 2 year is so scary. A person from a refugee community, they don't maybe know what is going to happen next month, how they can commit to a 2 years reskilling program, right? So with the government, with TU Dublin, with Chrysalis, which is a company that has provided the teaching skill set. We have built and launched in only 3 months a new program, which is a certificate in AI, which is only 12 weeks. It's giving you all the basic knowledge to start to become an entry-level person in this field. You can continue to reskill, you can go directly into industry and start to apply all those basic data analytics techniques, basic machine learning in industry, and keep developing yourself with practice. But you have all the fundamentals, the gap, the knowledge gap that you may have not able to bridge alone with mentoring. So it's a very interesting program. So we have 50-50 in terms of gender balance. We have in the first cohort a blind person, person of color, person of every nationality. So when you design something with the clear understanding of who your target is and really design with them in mind, it's possible to increase diversity in this field. It's possible to attract more women. It's possible to attract minorities. But we need to make those programs accessible. And the government here in Ireland has done a terrific job. They started thinking to support 22 candidates completely free. So this first cohort was completely free. They went up to 35 because we had more than 114 applications in only 3 weeks that we advertised the program. It was such an amazing response. And it also tells us one thing: there are people out there that needs help, that are out job in this COVID moment, that have the willingness to reskill themselves if they have the support and a community that speaks to them. And we have fun and interesting channel. I think we are only at the beginning of this journey. And thanks to Women in AI, the government, the Irish startups and SMEs and the Irish University, this is possible. This community, it's so connected and strong together that I think those things are possible because Ireland is just this open and very agile ecosystem.
That is really such an amazing story of success and what is possible when you really have the right intention and the mindset to make a difference. So I think that's it's a great inspiration, and it's certainly something that I hope to see as a relative newcomer to the field. It's something that I hope to see continuing to change in a positive direction.
Cool.
And so we touched upon education there, which I think brings us nicely to our last question. I could talk to you for hours, Alessandra, but we have to wrap it up eventually. So our last question is, and I suppose it's relevant to the people carrying out the certificate and also to us as PhD candidates. What is the number one skill or competency you think that a PhD graduate needs to have?
Can I do two instead of one?
Why not? I'm sure we'll all value the knowledge.
Very good. So it's very important to be a proficient software developer. So it's not enough to understand how those models work, but really understand how to build the end-to-end solution. In practice, it requires a lot of software engineering capability. So to have the right process, to have the right flow from where you feed the data, how do you analyze the data and make sure that the data are representative of the reality that you're trying to model, how the cleaning, sometimes the cleaning just excludes something simply because the right question weren't asked. So I think the end-to-end pipeline and being able to code and create processes to build those systems for real is fundamental. So that's definitely, from my point of view, the number one, the number one and the most important feature or needs that a candidate should have. But the second one, which I really believe is important from all of us as human first, and then professional in the field, is to ask the right question. So asking the right question, it means two things. Am I really understanding how this customer, this company is using my solution in practice? So I'm designing the system that is really needed for, not the one that as machine learning expert I want to build because this is interesting to me. So really matching what your customer is asking and what you're building. The second one is understanding the consequences, right? So are we asking the right question? Is this technology has any opportunity to be misused? And if yes, can we create some processes around it so that this doesn't happen? So technically savvy in building and creating the end-to-end system that performs that machine learning task, but also understanding, am I answering the right question? Did I understood the business properly? Who is using it and how is using it? Is there any way to misuse my technology? Those questions that will become very, very interesting in the future.
Great word of wisdom to end on there, I think, Alessandra. So, listen, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
doing this interview today. I think we'll wrap it up there with just our humble thanks on behalf of ML Labs, and I can't wait to see how people react to this, and just to leave you with our best holiday wishes. Another kind of ditch.
You too. Greetings to ML students and professors. So I'm a great supporter of you all. So well done so far, and with best wishes for the future.
Thank you so much.